Lagos, you're welcome. If you just joined us, you're just in time. It's time for Freshly Pressed 981 on Smooth 98.1 with Ayo Mairo Ese.
And Kayode Bakerr. Good morning, Lagos.
Good morning, Lagos. And of course, we have our very special guest, analyst in the studio, Nwaji. Good morning.
Morning, Kayode. Morning, Ayo. And good morning, Lagos.
You can find him at the Corporate MC with a K on Twitter and also on all social media platforms. Lagos, you can reach out to us on social media to be part of our conversation.
That's right. Please tweet it to us at Smooth91FM. Use the hashtag FreshlyPressed91 so we can easily track your messages. We're also on Instagram and Twitter with the same handles. We're also streaming live on YouTube. So as we love to encourage you, beyond listening to our voices, why don't you, be a part of the conversation by seeing what goes on behind the scene as well. You can search for Smooth91 on YouTube and you'll find us there. And an added benefit is that old or previous episodes are also uploaded, so you can actually check them out as well. If you'd like to send us a WhatsApp message, it's 0809 444 0981 09008, I beg your pardon, 0809 444 0981. So Nwaji is riding solo this morning, and but we trust in his capabilities. We missed you last week, so we just thought, you're owning the
So
show.
I just make up for last week.
Yeah.
That's what that is. Okay.
Okay, so let's go on to the first story for this morning. 30,000 naira for get increased allocation without constitutional amendment, says RMAFC. And of course, the Revenue Mobilization Allocation and Fiscal Commission says that the constitution needs to be amended before the states can get additional substantial resources they require to cater for the obligation imposed on them by the minimum wage law. Now, we know that even before the law was passed, states had complained that they were not even meeting up with the 18,000 naira. How on earth are they going to pay 30,000 naira? States had been owing salaries and they had to have been bailed out by the government at some point. And RMAFC saying, well, we're not going to increase allocation. You need to go through constitutional amendment for this one. Can you please take us through the story?
All right. Thank you very much, Aya. And I think when you now begin to look at the face of it in a whole country like Nigeria, I want to say, and for anybody, please correct me if I'm wrong, that there are maybe 3 at best states that are currently quite healthy when it comes to their capacity to generate revenue for themselves. I don't know if it's within that number, but it's a shockingly low number when you look at the total number of states. And what does that now let you know? It lets you know that a lot of states are just there for all sorts of maybe posterity purposes and not necessarily actually doing anything, because the entire aspect, when you look at the federal system in any kind of organization or country like Nigeria, it exists for the purpose of you being able to somewhat self-govern within a larger republic, and that's the entire purpose of a state. Now, if a state cannot look after itself vis-a-vis pay salaries or whatever other bills it has, then that state should not now be a state, and that's another question we should have.
Yes.
So in order for these aspects and these particular processes to go through, and I do agree with it, is that the larger conversation should now be, why do these states have issues with generating revenue? What is it that they're not doing? Have you not found or figured out innovative or creative ways to make money? What are the resources of your particular states that you can export even within the country or even internationally, so that you can now begin to generate revenue? What are your tax regimes in those particular states that exist? Do you have corporations that exist in those particular states that you can now earn taxes from?
Yeah.
Property, income, all those aspects as well. So I think, I'm going to use this word very loosely, there's a lot of laziness with vast respect to the governance of these states, which is why you're not having the kind of innovation that now allows you to generate revenue in these states. When you now look at what Lagos did in the early 2000s, it was a question of having your back against the wall, and between the devil and the deep blue sea, when the federal government more or less told them, we're not giving you diddly anything. So that now made them get very creative and forced them to be very innovative, and why Lagos is where they are today, where they can pretty much survive without federal allocation. So a lot of states need to ask themselves these questions as to what do we now need to do differently, or a larger conversation, which I know everybody's going to disagree with, which is just go back to some maybe, become absorbed into some other states.
Everyone would disagree with
Okay, because some people are very, okay, fine, that's okay, fantastic. I'm happy. I'm not a lone rider on that one, but I think it's important for people to understand that, so that you can now begin to figure out, and it has to be a public and private sector partnership. where you have individuals from the private sector who operate in other states, they can now begin to do things. You can just start with small cottage industries to now grow businesses, scale up and everything else, and then just see where things go. People do exist in these states, and as long as people are in the states, you can generate revenue. So I do agree with that states need to focus more on how best they can generate revenue in order for them to meet up with this minimum wage.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Nwaji. And let's go on to another one. Now, this is something that was trending on social media. This news was trending on social media, and it's interesting because it's not the first time the president is making an international visit. But Punch reports this as that knocks as Buhari begins 10-day private visit to the UK. Now, the PDP and the coalition of united political parties yesterday called on the president to disclose his reason for embarking on a 10-day trip to the United Kingdom. State House had released a statement to say that he will be out of town, and instead, the vice president would be overseeing the economy and the nation Nigeria. So, what do you think that the president should reveal reasons why he's traveling? Is he entitled to private visits?
Okay, so as far as I know, as a working civil servant, he is entitled to vacation.
Yes.
And I think by just virtue of the terminology private visit, that would now point towards the fact that he's going on a personal vacation. So if it is classified as that, I do not believe that he needs to tell people the reason why he is going. Now, if it happens to be other reasons, such as medical, then I think it's important for that information to be revealed to the Nigerian public, so at least we know the health status of the president or whatever the case may be. But if it's just he just wants to go hang out with family, do some shopping, go get him some fish and chips.
Or order pizza.
He's entitled. So he can order it and put it on British Airways, right? But he just go get it himself, right? Just go down King's Road and get it from Pizza Express.
Let me go on.
Let me at least do it, so eliminate. So look, my whole point is he is entitled to leave, and I'm sure he can afford to go to the UK on his own. And as president, I think he's somewhat allowed to do these things. So if it is a private vacation, personal time visit, I think he's well within his rights not to disclose the reasons.
Well, this is what PDP is saying. They say the president is not traveling as an individual. He's traveling as the president of Nigeria, who was elected by Nigerians in 2020.
Do we know that for sure?
Well, they said he was on a presidential jet that is being maintained by taxpayers.
Okay, fair point.
Nigerians are going to be responsible for his welfare and the welfare of those who are going with him. Some other groups have mentioned that his frequent trips are alarming. The presidency have declined to shed more light on president's private visits. So, and like you said, we're being generous in saying that, okay, perhaps he's just going there, he wants to relax a bit. I'm sure he has official leave days. I don't know if this is taken out of his official
We don't know that exactly,
yes,
right?
We don't know that. And also, if it's medical, it's just a private visit, which he's unwilling to
because other times he traveled for medical reasons. He did declare that it was for medical reasons. So once again, we don't know. It's just a lot of conjecture. I do appreciate where PDP is coming from, especially when you're using the private jet and you're using other resources that are now coming out of taxpayers. I do appreciate the sentiments, but I think we can focus on larger issues, and let's just give the man some slack.
All right, let's cut him some slack. Thanks, Nwaji. MI from Akoka says, spot on, Nwaji. Feeding bottle federalism has made some states very lazy and not fiscal viable. Paying the new minimum wages will require creativity to boost the IGR, not just waiting for the center for handouts. And then Pauline, just to encourage you, Nwaji. Gosh, Nwaji, you're such an eloquent rapper. It's refreshing listening to you. Thank you so much, Pauline, for that one. Okay, let's move on to the next story because we cannot wait to hear your voice, of course, Nwaji, on this one. So Vanguard has this story: why police misuse arms, kill on duty. Very important story right here.
Okay.
So the acting Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Adamu, has attributed he was summoned by the Senate because of the spate of killings, extrajudicial killings, and has attributed the increasing cases of misuse of firearms and extrajudicial killings by police personnel to work-related stress and emotional conditions.
All right, if anybody has the opportunity, I would really like for them to go to the Vanguard and read this deeply extensive article, which is why police misuse arms and kill on duty. And it more or less now goes into somewhat of an intellectual debate between the acting IG, Mohammed Adamu, and the former Lagos State Commissioner of Police, Alhaji Abubakar Task. I think that's TSAK. I can't pronounce that too well. Sorry about that. But it goes into a huge debate as to why. I'm sorry.
TSAV.
TAV. Okay, thank you very much. Sorry about that.
Okay.
And it goes into a very intellectual debate regarding what are the reasons why people have, why the police are committing extrajudicial killings and shooting sporadically. And one camp is now pointing towards that there are long shifts that these guys operate on. You have 12-hour shifts that they have to now do over an extended period of time, and that kind of causes workplace stress, which now constitutes and contributes towards them now operating irrationally and them now doing things outside of the law. And the other camp is now saying, no, that's total nonsense. That your work-related stress has nothing to do with you cocking your gun, taking off the safety, and actually pulling the trigger. That is a form of a psychological issue, bad training, and bad recruitment. So what does this go to? I have spoken countlessly on this show about the sheer lack of professionalism with the Nigerian police force. I appreciate the entire depth, length, and breadth of this entire article, but one thing is missing, which is the individuals and the psychological status and the psychological health of the individuals that they are recruiting to be police in Nigeria. Before you now begin to engage any individual to be a security personnel, that person has to go through a litany and a battery of psychological, psychometric assessments to actually evaluate if they are fit for purpose. Without that, you are going to continuously have the kind of issues that you have. It has to be rigorous and it has to be really, really extreme, because you have to make sure that these people can deal with workplace stress activities. Being a police officer in a country like Nigeria is a stressful job. So you have to be psychologically and physically built to handle that stress, which is why this is the issue. So what we're doing right now is that we're administering Panadol after death. No, let's go to the actual issue. Let's now focus on the recruitment process. Let's now focus on the onboarding process, and let's continue to focus on the entire training system and the continuous refreshers that these guys need to go through in order for you to make sure that they're up to scratch. In other parts of the world where you have police forces, they have constant psychological evaluations. And when the psychologist has deemed this individual at this particular moment is not necessarily, fit, you're put on administrative leave.
Okay.
And you're taking your weapon is taken away from you, because you pose not only a danger to yourself, but also to people around you in society. So this is what we now need to focus on. So once again, this is fantastic what they're doing. Let's start the conversation, but let's scale it back a bit. Let's begin to ask ourselves more fundamental questions. What kind of people are we recruiting in? What are our standards? What are the basic minimum requirements that you as an individual must have from your age, from the kind of physical condition you are in, the kind of mental condition you are in, the background you have, the aspirations you have? All these questions need to be done. It needs to be it needs to be rigorous. It needs to be invested in heavily so that we can eliminate this issue. Too many people are dying as a result of bad processes. And what's now beginning to happen is that you're seeing a reversal of that situation where Nigerians are striking back. This past 2 weeks, I've seen two situations where people have now responded to killing police in certain parts of the country because maybe a police shot a kid, the community now attacked and killed that policeman. So you're now beginning to see a situation where people are tired. People no longer trust police. People no longer believe that the police have their best interests. So let's now take all this into consideration, go back to the drawing board and pull up a very watertight, rigorous strategy that will now take care of the onboarding, recruiting, and also training and psychological evaluation of police officers in this country.
I like the way you put that very well.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have messages here. This one says from Ikwesi, how does the governor of Kogi sleep knowing that the state he leads owes
he sleeps very well.
month's salary?
He sleeps very well. You'd be shocked.
The top of show says, as regards the new minimum wage, the state governors should increase the drive for internal generating revenue and put in measures to harness the resources that exist in their states. They should also cut down the cost of governance by reducing their flamboyant lifestyles involving long convoys and, of course, personal aids, and then they should also check ghost workers as well. Okay, we see other messages, but don't forget, send them to 0809-444-0981 and also on Twitter where it's smooth91fm with the hashtag freshlypressed91.
All right, thank you very much. Now, another report from the Punch newspaper and a few other dailies took this story, carried this story. EFCC, that's Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, arrests 32 suspected Yahoo Boys in Ogun. Now, just in case you do not know who Yahoo Boys are, these are internet fraudsters. Now, they've mentioned that Ibadan zonal office yesterday arrested 32 of these suspects, and they were aged between 15 and 39 years. They were arrested in Liberty Estate in Ogun State, but by the Ibadan Zonal Office. The reason why this is important, Waji, is that yesterday, and I think for the past 2 days, there's been an argument on social media. I don't know if you've been aware of it. It's about internet fraud. Is it a crime or not a crime? And there are people who are actually coming out and being vocal about the fact that it's someone's hustle. So please, it's not a crime. People should allow others hustle on their own and make their money. They are not harming anyone. When you read reports like this, it's obviously a crime. Can you please just touch on this really?
Okay, so let me just be emphatic. Internet fraud is a crime. Okay, it was a crime back in the 90s when I first had exposure to it, when I used to receive those bogus emails about how some prince something and there's $20 million and all you need to do is deport that nonsense. It is a crime when you present yourself in a fraudulent manner for the purpose of exchange of commerce. That is a crime. So let's not confuse or now hide it behind hustle. Hustle is you waking up at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting creative, getting innovative, either having a job or creating some kind of commerce for yourself and your community. That's hustle. So please do not insult the hardworking people of this country who put their tails on the line every single day to produce for their families without necessarily resorting to something criminal. That is damning insulting to people who work very hard. So let me just put that out there.
Thank you very much.
Now, to this particular point, right? I always want to be very careful when the police get into these things, because how do you constitute an internet fraud? Seeing a bunch of young men on laptops, they could be coding, okay? They could be creating content. They could be designing an internet community for their university or for their larger community. You actually do not know until the actual crime is committed. So the essence of young individuals who happen to be on computers should not create a sense of people doing internet fraud. So that's where we need to be very, very careful with controlled narratives. That is my only issue with this, because nothing here has spoken to an actual crime.
Well, what they've said is that they also recovered from them 6 exotic cars, laptops,
okay,
phones,
and maybe
documents,
what's an exotic car?
And fetish objects.
Okay. Is having a fetish object a crime?
It's
No. It's not, right? What is a fetish object? So if
they
you happen,
did have several documents containing false pretenses.
What does that mean?
It means that they had documents with different names,
Okay.
organizations, so they had.
Okay, so once again, what is the, and I would love for any lawyer to contribute, you having documents with quote unquote false pretenses, I want to know how that now points towards you being a Yahoo boy. And this is where we need to get very careful, because one of these guys is going to find a sharp lawyer that's going to come back and sue you for wrongful imprisonment. Because if you cannot connect what it is you're arresting me for to the actual thing you've labeled upon me, then that is wrong. So we need to do things properly, is all I'm saying. I'm not saying these guys are innocent, but all I'm saying is that the security agencies need to get a lot more smarter with regards to how they go for these individuals, because who knows what they're doing? We actually do not know.
Very well said. Thank you very much, Nwaji. I'll take 1 or 2 comments before we proceed. Olatubosun here says, good morning, Mr. President is busy surfing the whole wide world while the Globetrotters, while bandits, police, cultists, and Boko Haram are carefully surfing Nigerian people. Well, in MJ's voice, all I want to say is that they don't really care about us. That's from Olatubosun. He's not surfing the world. He's on a private visit. We don't know the reason why he's gone for 10 days. Yeah. Then Shagun says the ineptitudeness of these governors is the reason the citizens migrate in droves to Lagos and other major cities in the country. Speaking about IGR in other states. Also, we have a comment here. Mark Zorin says, good morning. I disagree that the president should even travel outside the country for anything other than working and state visits.
That's not right. No.
Okay. So therefore, this private visit in quotes is certainly one of 2: leisure vacation or medical vacation. The former can be done in Obudu. That's GJ.
No, but you're not going to dictate where a man chooses to go for private vacation. We have absolutely no right to do that unless our constitution specifically states that the president of Nigeria must spend his vacation time in Obudu cattle ranch. I'm sorry, that's nonsensical.
All right, okay. So he finally says the latter medical vacation should be declared.
Yes,
or should be
I agreed.
By developing capacity in the country.
I agree with that.
For your comments, Matt. Sorry. Go on to more comments.
Let's see this next story. This one here from the Premium Times says AIB releases final reports on 6 plane accidents. Says late Taraba governor not certified to fly. And this was mentioned on Thursday. They're saying that Governor Dambaba Suntai was not certified to operate the Caravan aircraft which crashed on October 25th. And the Bureau said that the aircraft which crashed in Yola, South Adama was not in the Nigerian Civil Aviation Authority registry. Waji, what are your thoughts about this?
Well, it's a real sad aspect when you now begin to look at it, and this is now pointing towards a lot of private air situations, even though it goes on to other situations. And I see something here about the Delta, crash as well. Well, that wasn't a crash; it was like an emergency landing, but people were hurt. Either way, notwithstanding, right? It's about just how do we now continuously regulate flying within this country to make sure that all the airlines and pilots are properly regulated. So if you have a particular license that says you can fly a particular plane, that you should be flying that plane. If you happen to want to now fly another plane, you now have to indicate that you have the right qualifications to fly that next plane. In addition to that, what are the flight plans of each particular aircraft that takes off a particular route? That needs to be submitted to the Federal Aviation Authority, FAN. So that way you can make sure that things are done properly. So for me, it's just a question of regulation. I think it's very, very important. I love what AIB is now doing by producing these reports, because it forces the regulator to be more stringent and to monitor things and to make sure that the right pilots who are qualified or certified to fly certain planes are doing so, and that all the right flight plans are in place, and then all the necessary security, engineering, safety, and health checks are done on each plane before they take off, making sure they're properly fueled, making sure the fuselages and all these things are properly maintained, so that way we can minimize these disasters as much as possible. So I'm absolutely happy that it's going on, and I think that I must credit the regulators. They've been very, very on it for a number of years, so we just need to continue to expand it, even with the number of private jets that we have, so we can reduce the number of accidents.
Thank you very much for that one. By the way, they're also making 178 safety recommendations, and they said that that's been assessed since inception, since 2007. Let's move on to the next story. This one here comes from Thisday newspaper. It says federal government bans foreigners from designing security projects, and it's quite interesting. It says the federal government has declared that foreign professionals will no longer be engaged in the execution of projects involving national security, and they further said that experts will only be engaged when their Nigerian counterparts are not available, adding that even Nigerian professionals will be assigned to understudy them if the case were different.
Okay, I actually understand where Fashola is coming from, because Fashola is the one who made these proclamations, and I actually get it, because I do believe it's very important for things of national security, for people who do have the best interest of this country, who are Nigerians, to be involved in the architecture of those particular plans. I think it is very, very key. I don't have an issue with people, with foreign nationals, being part of organizations, committees, or companies that do design these plans. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, as long as they're working with Nigerian counterparts. You have information sharing, you have knowledge sharing, and all these other aspects. So I think once we can regulate it that way, it should not be a problem. But I do understand the ethos of it. I just think we need to be careful how it's couched, so it doesn't now become a situation where we're saying we don't want foreigners involved in security planning. No, that's nonsense. We can bring them on as consultants and everything else, and you can work with Nigerian counterparts to lay out these plans. So there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's well put together.
All right, thank you very much for that one. Don't forget, Lagos, we're still taking comments on WhatsApp. It's 0809-444-0981.
We have some comments on Twitter. Classic Peter Yorinde says, Omo, if Waji went on a 10-day break and is taking the show with behemoth vocal fluency like this, I beg, I'm sure my Presido's break will do good to his performance when he returns. But he said, visit is official, vacation is personal. It is unclear to me. But I like that point, Peter. Thanks a lot. Because remember, it says private visit, not personal.
Exactly. Oh.
Yeah, very true. Thanks a lot for that clarification. Also, we have some people have come for you for your take on the Yahoo story. Waji, take it easy, man. I understand your reporting. Well, he talked about Nigerian police and says, for goodness sake, fetish objects were found in their possession, amongst other things.
Okay.
What more substantiation do we need?
Once again, I'm just saying, a fetish object, you having possession of a fetish object, I do not know that to be a crime. That's all I'm saying.
All right.
I'm not here to debate the morality of it.
Patrick in Shomolu says, possession of different travel documents for individuals who are not traveling.
We didn't say travel documents. We didn't say travel documents.
Yeah. All right. So Patrick and Pascal, you get your responses there. Thank you very much, though, for sending your messages in. We'll continue with our stories.
This one comes from this day newspaper. It says the FEC approves 52 billion naira for installation of e-border technology. And well, the story further says that it was discussed yesterday in Abuja, and they're saying that it's for the provision of electronic devices for the country's borders. And with the Minister of Interior, that's General Abdurrahman Dambanzu, said that given the porous nature of the country's borders, it's absolutely impossible to effectively safeguard them. And this is why they're, setting up this e-border technology thing. Watching.
So what do you want to know? 52 billion naira that went towards installation of e-border technology, and then
It's supposed to be spread across for 86
points of
border
entry.
posts, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
So what are we going to have? Actual proper hard borders with the necessary, psychometric data points to now biometrics to the data points to make sure that people are coming in. I want to see it done. And our borders are beyond porous. We have a situation where people just filter in from all sorts, from Cameroon, from Niger, from Chad, from Benin Republic, and all the other points that we, even from the sea, that the points that we share borders with. So yes, we do need to have better borders, hard borders, that we can ensure that we protect, the sovereign integrity of the country, and make sure that individuals come in and are properly documented, individuals leave out and are properly documented as well. So if this money is going to now contribute towards that, that's fine. I don't know. You see, this is why I always get a bit concerned when I see things like e-border technology. So what does that mean, e-border technology? Is that with reference to the infrastructure of IT?
The idea have is a national checkmate. They say 1,400 entry points is what they're talking about, and they're also talking about the fact that the information that they do get will be in real time, and they can use it to, combat the certain areas that they do find.
So here's the issue, Kayode. We are yet to have a national database of identification. Okay. We are yet to do that. NIMC have been on this for what, over 10 years now, trying to ensure that we have a collated database of a central database. So I don't know if we have taken 10 years to do that. I don't know what 52 million naira of an e-border centralization platform of making sure we have harmonization across all these different points of entry is going to work. It's just where the distrust now begins to cut in with regards to what the capacity can actually do. I appreciate the sentiments, but the proof is always in the pudding.
All right, thank you very much for that one. Before we go, we have one more story, but you know what, let's just take that. We still have time to take a few more messages though. 009-444-0981. This one says from the Punch newspaper, 5 former ministers are still listed as members of President Muhammadu Buhari's cabinet on the website of the office of the Secretary of the Governor Federation, many months after they resigned their appointments to pursue their different ambitions. And this comes from the fact that the headline says the ministers still, the cabinet members are still on the 64 million naira website, basically.
Right. Okay, so Ayo diligently did some research on these websites, and she says, they're fine, they're functioning, but it's the downloadable PDF documents that now have the old former individuals' names on it that are now contributing towards the issue. So this is just a question of having the right IT infrastructure and just having somebody on there. I mean, for goodness sake, you can go hire a couple of young cats to now update these things for you, upload, download, remove, refresh, and everything else. So it's just a question of making sure you have the right staffing. So they made a mistake. Let them own up to it. Let's not crucify them. Just learn from it.
I think people are just still upset at 64 million.
I know.
After spending 64 million,
I know,
you can't get your facts right.
I know. But let's
let's
all work together.
That the 64 million was to recruit people, also buy laptops. But then again, like I just mentioned, 64 million. I mean, even if you're paying people for a whole year to manage your website.
When it comes to IT, it's not that much money.
I mean, okay, so like Kayode mentioned, part of 64 million is to procure training and consultancy services. If you're paying that amount of money and they're not updating your website,
problem,
heads will roll. 64
I'm not disagreeing.
Taxpayers' money. But I mean, just to highlight that, and of course, we hope that the authorities are listening so that they can update. And this was the only website we saw, and to be fair, for a government agency website, it was very good. However,
there are a few good ones out there.
So with regards to ministries, agencies, it's important that we start to see them. We've seen a number of them come out. Their social media pages are very vibrant, responding to information and uploading information. That is very commendable. And just to keep our eye on them so that they don't drop the ball. All right, some messages before we go.
Yes, this one here comes in from Shegun. It says, all those who go on private holidays abroad, including PDPs, say PMB, President Muhammadu Buhari, should not chill after elections. They are all hypocrites. Okay, well, that is quite the statement. This one here says, this qualification you're talking about in police recruitment doesn't really add up. Recruitment in this country is done on man-no-man basis, whether qualified or not, and that's the real problem we have in Nigeria.
So that's what I'm saying. So you need to create a system where you have and determine and define qualifications for who should be a police officer. That's exactly what I mean. We should not revert to type and say this is the way we do it, therefore that's the way it should be done.
This final message here says, which area is greater than the one being perpetrated by the so-called politicians in Nigeria who keeps using money meant for development of the country for their personal gains. Misplaced priority everywhere. Okay.
All right,
And this is
that's all.
Chiguse Lazarus.
All right. Thank you very, very much indeed. Thanks a lot to our analysts, solo riding but killing it. Thank you so much, Nwaji.
Thank you, Ayo.
And
Thank you,
find
Kayode.
Nwaji if you have anything against him and his Yahoo comments at the corporate MC. Corporate
Come,
is K.
come for me, Hail Mary.
All right,
Be with me.
Oh, Feel Good Friday. Singing us into a Feel Good Friday this morning is Nwaji. And we have the locker room coming up in a few minutes. Following that, we'll be having our question of the day. Something nice, something light, something funny. This is Smooth 98.1, Smooth Breakfast.
Oh my word. Oh.
Nice one. Nice one. Nice one.
Really?
You didn't even read every story. And you didn't even read every
Well
story.
done.
That was
Thank you
very
very
good.